Oh no, what's happened to him? Oh God, he's fucked.
Waldo?
I'm Lee Hardcastle. And today we're going to break down a few of my favourite shots. So the first shot is from a video that I made for the promotion of Doom Eternal. I was using a rig that I'd just purchased called an animator's cube from Ditto Gear. What was so beautiful about the design was that the rig connected to the ceiling rather than the camera being on the floor. It's able to perform camera movements within this environment, within the cube, so to speak. Prior to this camera rig, I had my camera on a tripod with the tripod legs attached to the floor, and a common problem I would have, I'd keep knocking the leg on the tripod and the shot would get ruined. For this shot, if you imagine my space as a rectangle like this, kind of like when you go to a fairground and you see the design of these ghost train rides, you know, like you're riding like this kind of path. Because if you were just to go from A to B, it'd be a very short ride. So to make the ride longer, you kind of go through the design of this, you know. So, you know, the camera would start there, and if these are the arrows telling you which way to go, you can understand. So for this shot, you got to think like the camera is facing that way, and then it goes down here, passes the bridge, goes round here, sort of explores that corner, explores that crevice, before finally the camera lifts up and goes to the final platform where Claycat is stood there. The rig, as I've described, it's kind of like imagine a table that's turned upside down with the table legs connected to the ceiling. The camera is on a contraption here, the camera sits there. This is able to maneuver, like spin its head, tilt its head up and down. There's 6 different axes that are programmed through software that I use called Dragon Frame to create keyframes. So you'll say, this is position A on frame 0, move along to the 24th frame, for example, you give it the position B. Now you do that for each axis. You can say whether or not the move between the keyframes is like a slow one, or if it's just straight to it like that. When the camera is over here, before we get around this corner, we've got like puppets and monsters and finally Claycat here. As the camera picks up on whatever's in shot there, you start to animate these, whatever's in frame, these people. Just try and keep the shot interesting, so it's like when I get down here I want something to happen, so I'll have this tentacle here wrapping around the bridge, and then I'll know like this guy eventually will become the focus of the shot. So the lava effect here is LED strip lights, and so for this one I just put it on the orange setting, and you can see within inside this bridge here there's actually like a little light sort of lighting this character here. These are just really small to scale to the set buildings that are supposed to look like falling over, and they're just simply cut out cardboard, like just silhouettes, which looks really effective when you've got a bright light illuminating the back wall there. My lights that I use have been what I've been using for like the last 10 years, and that's from IKEA. They have these cheap lights that I pay £10 each for, and they're on a bendy thing with a clip. I use them with gels, which are like filters, coloured filters that you put on the light. I haven't really needed to go beyond that yet. Like, it's always suited my small setup. To the next shot. We're going to talk about lip syncing.
Oh no, what's happened to him? Oh God, he's fucked.
Waldo?
Oh, what the fuck have I done?
Waldo? I love it! Oh, it's so cute! Oh my God, that's the cutest thing I've ever seen! Waldo!
A long time ago when I was in high school, the art teacher that noticed that I had an interest in animation, and she very kindly printed off something from this workbook that she had on animation, and I kept it for many years and always referenced it when I finally got to start doing stop motion animations. And it was a really simple printout, and it was just 5 different shapes of the mouth. Basically you have different mouth movements for when you say words. For example, when you say you, sort of like the mouth goes into a bit of this position, starts out big and then you. If you start to think about the way that your mouth moves, so if you just say murder or ball, and then you start to think about where the tongue is, like ball, and sort of really exaggerate in that and just think about these mouth movements when it comes to making a choice of what you want to represent. So for this character, I had 5 different mouth shapes. You can see I've got like this one, got some teeth for like shh. Once you've got all that stuff figured out, I tend to just do some, you know, the eye movements to correspond to what he's talking about, his hand gestures.
Oh my god.
When you're pre-visualizing and trying to figure out what mouthpiece goes on what frame number, you scrub through the audio, you go through it like frame by frame, and on Dragon Frame you're just getting this frame of a sound repeated, like going and you're like, oh, that's an O, like that. So the lips are actually plasticine, and then these teeth and this black bit, like that's a different kind of plasticine. It's called in Britain Fimo, and it's an oven baking clay. It goes hard once you bake it in the oven, so you don't have to worry about it getting destroyed. As you handle the character, these details that are put onto the hair, they kind of get squished in and a bit blended over time, so you have to keep resculpting, you have to keep it looking fresh, because as soon as you touch it, it just sort of gets a bit blended together. This is from a video that I made in promotion for a remake of Child's Play.
Hey, howdy partner, come on out.
To achieve the illusion that you're seeing this from the perspective of a doll, the camera is there and that represents the head of the doll, but in reality there's no head of a doll there. I actually attached a puppet to the base where the camera is sat on here, and so when the camera looks downwards it can see its feet, these arms. For that jump, you know, I like lifted the camera all the way to the top and then gave it that movement so it sort of like slows as it gets to the top, and then boosh, you know, goes really fast as it lands. For the impact after that, he like slowly moves his head up as if he's looking for his next victim. I had to use my imagination and think about what could potentially be happening in all of these shots, and I would program the camera to do all this first. I do some tests and I can see it without the animation happening, and then once I've got that down, I start to do the animation. The scale of the room is actually a lot bigger than what I usually do. I did that because the scale of the action is smaller, like the puppet's supposed to be this big or whatever. So I ended up building a big stage, bigger than usual. I tend to go through my wardrobe, any old clothing. You see there's a lot of checkered material for the beds, some of the characters' clothings, and so I'll just use a lot of that material to make curtains, bed sheets. There's even one shot in one of my short films called Tears for Toilet. There's a shot in there where they're in bed and it's actually an old pair of underpants.
He's finally using the toilet. About fucking time.
That's where a lot of the materials from my set come from, just like whatever junk I can find. This is from a short film called A Zombie Claymation. I made this as part of a filmmaking challenge called Straight 8. A filmmaker is given a roll of Super 8 film, and then they have to shoot in camera, they have to edit in camera, and the filmmaker doesn't get to see their final film until it's being developed and it's being played in front of an audience. I cheated the challenge by setting up 2 cameras so that I was able to see what I was doing digitally. So I was taking a snapshot on my Super 8, and then I was also taking a snapshot on my digital camera. So they pick the top 8 films and they get played at a Cannes Film Festival. I actually got selected and got to go to the premiere and got to see it with an audience, which was quite wild. One one of the best advices I ever got was from this filmmaker, and it was to just create anything. Create music videos, create commercials, do wedding videos, do anything that involves video, just non-stop, just don't stop basically. That's what I did, and I've created lots of stuff. There's stuff that people have not even seen, and I swear by that advice to anyone, just keep creating, because it'll take you to some interesting places.